6th. We are beginning our meeting with a public hearing for code changes to Section 345-32, mandatory connection to public sewers. I'm going to turn it over to the
Thank you, Mayor. This came from the sewer committee, went through the administration, and we're all in support of this. As you may be aware that currently, if someone has sewer that goes past their house and they have a septic system, and whether the system is working well or not, they have 5 years to connect. The town has not enforced this over the years for fairness purposes, so we're recommending that Section A be removed totally. And then how we'll handle it is if someone has a failure on their septic system and the failure is $10,000 or more to repair, then they must connect to the sewer. If it's $999 or less, then of course they can fix it and continue with the septic system. The town supports it, the sewer committee supports it, obviously gets to speak on it.
Absolutely. Is there anyone present who would like to speak for this code change? We want to give an opportunity. There's not too many of you, so if you're not standing, I assume you don't have a problem with it. But is there anyone with a problem about this code change? Okay. Council persons, do we have any questions or anything that we'd like clarification on about this code change? Yes? Oh, I'm sorry. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for the town manager through you is, what would the process look like for a resident to inquire regarding the cost? How would they have to go out and get a price estimate from a contractor? And
If they have a failure, the failure has to be reviewed by the health department. The health department would then go in and see what has to get done to correct it. And then the person would get estimates, and if they have estimates of less than $10,000, they submit it to the health department, and therefore they would not have to connect to sewers. But if they can't do it for less than $10,000, then they're going to have to connect to the sewers. Okay. But all deficiencies in septic systems have to go through the health department and the engineering office.
Right. Very good. Chris?
Just a comment. Actually, Vicky, I'm thinking recently we haven't really had many petitions for sewer or not sewer, but I know serving with you a long time, we've had those instances where you get half a neighborhood
Yes.
that wants the sewer, half the neighborhood wants to stay on septic. You get all these sorts of cases where someone just reinstalled their septic and upgraded their septic system like maybe a year ago, and now we're forcing them to tie into the sewer system. So just historically, I think this is a really good move for the town. It's really beneficial to our residents. So I want to thank you, Mark, for moving this forward, because I really do think it's beneficial to our residents. Again, just thinking historically,
Yeah.
we've had to.
And it was always a real hardship too, Chris. People would in and it would be, $10,000, $8,000 for them to hook up, sometimes even more. And so, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? So we have no further comments. We will take action on this later on during the actual meeting. So I'm going to close the public hearing and start our regular meeting. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Valerie DiPaolo. Here. Willie Dietrich. Tom Lombardi.
Here.
James Morelli. Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Jack Perry.
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky.
I'm here.
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Victoria Triano.
And I am here. Let's all stand for the prayer, followed by a moment of silence for Dr. Alfonsi, who passed away this past week. And he was a pillar in our community for generations and generations. And so we will certainly miss him, but he has made his mark in this community forever, followed by the flag salute. So let's go with the prayer. Go ahead, Jim.
Heavenly Father, tonight we pray for direction and courage. We need your help to define our path and courage to walk it. We ask your continued blessing upon Southington and her people. Amen.
Amen. A moment of silence, please, for Dr. Alfonsi. Thank you. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. May I have a motion on the minutes, please?
minutes from our last meeting.
Second, Madam Chair.
Any discussion on the minutes? Any additions or deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. It passes unanimously. Item 3, councilperson's communication. We're going to start with the report of special committees, however, at that time, because we only have one, and so might as well start with the Apple Harvest Festival, and we'll go into councilperson's communication. But first, let's talk about the Apple Harvest Festival. Chris and Tom, get us up to date.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, before we start with the I just want to say briefly the self-insurance committee was scheduled to meet last week. Unfortunately, a member was unable to attend, so we did have to cancel last week's meeting. So there will be a future meeting on that. On the Apple Harvest, if people drove down Main Street today, they saw that the tents were starting to go up. So it's an exciting time for the Apple Harvest. We did meet on Wednesday, September 14th to go over some last minute items. We got an update on the financial report and from the festival coordinator and the sponsorship coordinator. We also agreed on the parade grand marshal, who will be Ed Dressel. If the name doesn't sound familiar, his voice certainly would if he was here speaking. He's been the parade announcer for the last 25 years before retiring, but prior to the 2021 festival. And years ago, in the early 90s, I believe, he was also the festival coordinator, and when he worked alongside the with it. And then, so that was it on the meeting from Wednesday, September 14th, and I'll hand it over to Councilman Palmieri for an update on the schedule and other activities.
Okay, and Tom and I wanted to give you all, so we have a little sneak preview here of the brochure for the festival, so you can see a lot of that there. First of all, we also want to take a moment. We have really 3 staff members that help us out with the festival. We wouldn't be able to do it without them. So a huge shout out to Julia Bardinelli, who does a lot of behind the scenes work. She's the assistant festival coordinator, and really just does a fantastic job. In fact, made the brochure that you have in front of you. Our festival coordinator, Dave LaPre, is involved in every aspect of the festival. Very busy. Downtown overseeing the tents as they're going up right now. And of course, we'll be there with Julia throughout the duration of the festival. So huge thanks to both Dave and Julia on behalf of the committee. And then our sponsorship coordinator is Melissa Kokoza. And the one other thing, Tom, that we did share, we have paid to date $42,325 in sponsorship money. So
Right.
that's huge.
Wonderful.
And we thank all our sponsors. So if I could, I'd just like to quickly thank them publicly. And we'll do this at the festival as well. But our bronze sponsors this year are Tilcon, Ty and Bond, Richard Chevrolet, Quantum, Biopower, Mad Dogs Junk Removal, M&T Bank, Eversource, Enbridge, and Elite Roofing. The next level up, our silver sponsors this year are Bristol Health, Century 21, Goosetown, Eden and Maine, and Rosie's Royal Chocolates. On the next level up, our gold sponsors this year are Coca-Cola, Live Well, Raya Clinic, Liberty Bank, Price Chopper, and Nanfito Roofing. Platinum sponsors are AMR and the United States Army.
Wow.
Great to have the.
Yeah, that's great.
And finally, our Platinum Plus sponsor is Hartford Healthcare, who came back again at that high level
That's
from
wonderful.
last year. So that's really
that's
fantastic. Also, just a shout out behind the scenes, we have some students that are involved. We always like to acknowledge and recognize our students, so they're ambassadors. Their names are Elijah Hammond, Sophia LeBlanc, Diego Mendez, Angelina McCacci, Sophia Shasha, Riley Sima, and Amanda Thompson. So they're really
That's wonderful.
doing a great job promoting the festival for us leading up to it, and they'll be downtown at the festival as well.
That'd be wonderful.
And then, of
Great.
course, we'd like to invite you to opening ceremonies, which is this Friday night, 5:30 on the main stage. So we hope all of you can make it to kick off.
The parade.
Oh, and
They're invited to the parade.
you're invited to the
Yes.
parade. That's good.
Yes.
That invitation should go out today.
Yes.
A lot of our traditional favorites are back. We have our parade, which is Sunday. Fireworks are Saturday night. This Friday night back, we didn't have it last year, is our laser light show. So if you remember that from a couple years ago, that's a fantastic
amazing.
addition. So we're having that back this year. Great entertainment on the stage throughout the weekends. Our craft fair is back for the second weekend. And of course, great food by many of our local civic groups in town. They'll be there throughout the duration of the festival.
That's wonderful. Yep. That's wonderful. Well, I want to make sure that everyone are invited not only to come once, but to come many times to our festival. Yep. Come on, Paul.
Chris and Tom, if it's okay, I'd like to give a special shout out to Heather McDonough as well for the volunteer coordinator. I know she's been really working hard. She came on just a couple of years ago,
Right.
And volunteered her time, and I know she's very passionate about it. So a special thank you to her as well for that. And I just wanted to ask, where can people go right now so that they can see information like this? I think we have it on the site somewhere. And then the second question is, I know we've received some questions from some of the participants in the parade. Where do they start to line up? What order are they in? Is there any information that you can provide on where they can get that information as well, or can we put it on the site?
So go right southington.org, easy to remember here and watching at home. Southington.org, you can't miss it because there's a link. There's a Apple Harvest link right there. Everything in this brochure is on the website, so you can find all that information there. The parade, Joanne Salerno is in charge of the parade. She actually sends all that out individual for each group, which is why Mark knows we got one for the town council.
Right.
So that information should be sent. If we just got ours today, it's possible.
Yeah, we got ours, so.
Possible they're getting
They're going out.
Third spot.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Very good.
And I just want to thank Tom because the finances that are involved in this are tremendous.
Right.
And Tom heads up a great crew, both weekends, in charge of collecting and all the donations throughout the festival. So it's a lot of work. And Tom, you have a great team. But
Yes.
thank you for heading
Thank
that
you.
up.
I do have a great team, and thankfully the team has grown from about 4 to 5 people, and now we're up to about 9 or 10. So that certainly helps.
Makes
But,
it a lot easier.
yeah,
But both of you have put in so many hours on this thing. People think it just happens, but we know better. And so both of you, we thank you very much.
I think we have to thank our
Chris?
families as well
And your families,
for
yeah, your
allowing us to be down there.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you. You've been involved for so many years, Chris. How many years have you been involved?
Since the town took over, really.
Yeah, huh? That's wonderful. And Tom's been going a long time. That's great. Thank you so much. Any other council persons' communication?
Madam Chair, I've got something just
Yes.
brief. I just very happy to announce that the Southington High School football team
Yeah.
traveled to Greenwich on Saturday, and they knocked off Greenwich 29 to 28 in a nail biter right to the end. And Southington is now ranked number 1 in the state.
Yeah. Whoa, that's
yeah,
great.
very
That's
exciting.
Great. Wonderful. Terrific. Yes. Anybody else? Yes, Chris?
A couple things. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of attending Central Baptist Church along with Vicki and Paul, and they hosted an event really to honor both people in service, veterans, and elected
Officials. yeah.
officials. So just want to thank them for the invitation. They did a great job. Paul and I were talking before, and Vicki, I know I said it to you that day. Their choir was absolutely
Incredible. I know.
incredible.
I know.
So just amazing to hear the way they came together and sang as a choir. So
And Chris, I know you're in school all the time, but when we do the National Day of Prayer, the college students come down to sing for us at the National Day of Prayer on the Green. It was a big hit. They're really into music. It was just beautiful. It was very nice, and I was very honored to be there. Also, so kind to us and recognizing our service to the community.
absolutely, I have a couple of
Yeah, please, go
things,
ahead.
if you don't mind. Alan and I had the pleasure to present a council proclamation. Thank you, Vicki.
Sure.
On Friday night to Tony D'Angelo, who was named our Democrat of the Year this year. Tony has been involved for so many years, serving on the town council.
Oh yeah,
But most recently, he served on the Charter Revision
right.
Committee, and he also serves currently on our Ordinance Committee. So again, the list can go on, but Val and I were honored to be able to present that, and it was on behalf of the town council. So thank you all for your support in recognizing Tony. Next, we had said there would be information, and actually this was mentioned yesterday too at the Central Baptist Church, information leading up to the November election, just to make sure there is no repeat of what happened for the mini residents for
Yes.
the primaries.
Yes.
So I know right around this time we had said that information would be shared out. So
Yes.
through you to Mark, I don't.
Yes, we'll make sure. We had a meeting with the registrar of voters and both sides, and this was a little while ago, but they have given us their word that they've straightened things out, and people will know where they're going. I believe they're sending out letters, and they probably have already gone out. But I'm going to double check it
Yeah,
because
they did say early October.
oh,
They were going to get individual letters early October.
so they're about to be sent. Yeah, which is good. Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just think that's critical
Me too.
moving forward, especially now you're not just talking about registered party voters, but the
Right.
entire.
And the districts have changed, so it's absolutely, we need to make sure that people know where they need to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then finally, I attended the Board of Ed meeting last Thursday with the chair, and Jack was there. Unfortunately, really, the whole ordeal has not been Southington's brightest moment, making national headlines, and not for great reasons. But leaving that meeting, I actually felt pretty inspired. And it wasn't really, although the adults did a great job talking about the community and how passionate they were on one side of the aisle or the other for the issue being debated, but it was the students that were absolutely incredible. And I know most of them just obviously in my day life.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more proud of students. And they spoke on both sides of the issue as well. But they spoke intelligently, they spoke respectfully, and they spoke passionately. And it was great to see them come out. And I can't imagine how difficult that was to come in a room of adults. And this room was
Oh,
packed.
Yeah.
And almost at capacity. So it's like 140 people, pretty close to that.
Yeah.
So for
Fire
them-
chief wasn't there, that's why.
No, we will keep. There was a count kept to make sure it was under. But really, I just want to thank them. Some of the students: Evan Carey, Dante Napolitano, Skylar Prinzhorn, Grace Toro, T.J. Riccio, Vinnie Perlot, and Ella Perlot. And I apologize if I missed anyone else, but those were the students that I believe spoke. And again, they spoke on both sides of the issues. This was not one side or the other, and there was passion on both sides. But it was incredibly inspiring to see our future and to see the way they share their thoughts with
And
us.
respectful.
Respectful.
They were very respectful, and that was wonderful. Yeah.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
And thank you to you, Chris, as well, and the rest of the teachers in the community, because I think it's a testament to the work that you and all the teachers in the town of Southington are doing to educate our kids and to, including mine, of course, and bring them to do these type of things, getting them involved, number one, and preparing them for this type of discussion and debate. So thank you to all of the educators out there, teachers in the class, paras, and all the administration that's out there helping the students in Southington, including you, Chris. Thanks.
Very good. Anything
Madam
else,
Chair?
Chris?
That's
You
it.
all set?
That's it.
Val?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a couple things. I was able to attend the United Way annual dinner a couple weeks ago, and it really was a very nice show. They were able to have a really good fundraiser for, to raise funds for the groups and the individuals and the organizations in town that they serve. So really congrats to their board of directors. Cheryl Lounsbury is the chair of the board, and then Jack Eisenman, the executive director, all of their volunteers. They really seem to have some really good positive energy and moving in a very positive direction. I know that in the past, that they've struggled a bit as a smaller United Way. So I think they're just really doing some good things. So the dinner, it was nice to be at the dinner. And I'm glad that Annette Turnquist is here tonight. So I wanted to just mention the animal control facility on Woodruff Street. A lot of trees came down, unfortunately, but they needed to, I think. I wanted to thank you, Annette, for in your department for the paving, and I know there's going to be fencing and hopefully some plantings to get that area looking good. But that's going to help the animal control facility. It's going to help the baseball park, the baseball field, all the people that come to those games. And, being up there volunteering, we're there mostly on Sundays, and it gets really difficult with people parking on the, on the grass. And so it's just nice to see that start to happen. So thank you very much. Thank you.
And Friends of Animal Control will be marching in the Apple Harvest
Right,
Festival.
yes, they will be.
Very excited
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it. They've got their new swag.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to walk with them, with their dog or other animal,
And
they
if I
can
may,
do that.
Yes, go ahead.
Madam Chair, also, Val, if it's okay, I'd also like to point out that this is also going to help alleviate pretty much all of the parking issue that we have along Woodruff there,
Woodruff,
where,
right, right.
when we have tournaments, we have people parking all over the area of the dog pound, but we also have people parking all the way up on the sidewalk
Right.
of Woodruff,
Well, I
all the way to
think-
the Armory. So
I
it's also
think
going to make it
I think
safer.
if it's still, I think you're probably still going to have parking on the street because there's going to be a lot of people. But it's going to help.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's definitely going to help. I mean,
Take 29 cars off the road. It's a 29 space
29, yeah.
parking lot.
yeah,
so 29
yeah. You should see the cars.
Oh,
though.
my kid
It's-
plays there. Yeah, my
Yeah,
kid's
I mean, we
baseball
had,
game
my
there.
son played there for years. They're up and down the street. But you're right, Paul. It's definitely going to alleviate a lot
But
of
lucky
that.
I'm not batting because those cars, those windshields,
oh, yeah, we know.
be in trouble.
In foul ball territory.
Well, that's why they would park way on us, right? Because they don't want to be.
That's why they park where the home run is when Mr. Del Santo, because they couldn't, they knew their cars were safe there.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, go ahead,
Madam
Jack.
Chair, thank you. I want to first start off with last Thursday, I joined you and Chris Palmieri at the Board of Ed meeting, and I've never seen this room that packed. I wish I'd seen it packed like that more often, but there was over 30 speakers, what they had registered, and it was a great opportunity to listen to, like, Chris said, both sides, and it shows that our Southington teachers are doing a great job with our students, because listening to the students speak, like Chris said, at that age, it was very intimidating, in my opinion, with this room having close to 140 people in it. And being a product of the Southington school system myself, we are blessed to have the teachers that we have in our community, and I'm just so happy that the community is continuing to back them. Another thing that I wanted to mention is we all got this email, and it's in regards to the people or the Commission for Persons with Disabilities. And it's just very alarming that committee has had a lot of turnover, people resigning. And again, I want to submit this email into the record so that other residents could see this email that we got. I think it was last evening.
Well, Jack, there is a problem with the email because it cites a meeting, an incorrect meeting. The date is not the correct date for the meeting. The meeting that I believe was referenced in that was for just the prior meeting that we've just had. That goes back to August.
September
Yeah,
22nd.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The email says August 13th, which
So-
was a Saturday.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was called upon by several people,
Yeah.
and based on what I was told, it's the same synopsis that is in this email.
Okay,
And,
but
and
it's
hang on, Madam Chair, one second, please.
I'm trying
So,
to get
so again,
clarification.
with the date, I get maybe the date is wrong, but again, what I heard happened is very concerning.
Oh, it's
I was
very
told that
concerning,
the
isn't it?
meeting didn't even continue. There was not even a motion to adjourn. So I don't know how we're having meetings that are just ending and people are being ushered out of the room. So I heard a voice recording of what happened at this meeting. The whole meeting was recorded via voice, and it's just concerning to me that, again, this is a commission that has had a lot of issues, and we should be working together as a council to try bring some peace to this commission in addressing all these concerns.
I believe the author of the letter is here. And so was your intent, did you just make a mistake on the date? The date should be on September
22, I believe.
22, I believe. Is that September? We have
Second- should be
the chairman
I
here.
think the second Tuesday, right?
Have it.
Second Tuesday of the month.
20th.
September 13th. It should be on September 13th. So Jack, would you please correct
Yeah.
the date on that, and then we will enter it in to the minutes of this meeting.
Again, I just have concerns because again, that's a important commission in my opinion. So again, I think we could do better, and I expect better.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I have a question for Councilman
sure.
for you. Councilman Perry, is there a way for us to also hear the audio of the meeting? Is that public?
Yeah, I'm sure I could get you guys the audio file that was shared with me. That's no problem at all.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
please
So,
do.
but the minutes are
No,
written,
they don't.
No, they're not verbatim.
Okay.
They don't do verbatim minutes.
summary minutes.
But again, and I've been to one of those meetings. I've been watching the meetings and or reading up on the minutes, and that's concerning as well because again, there's a lot going on over there, and I just think that again we could do better. So maybe voice recording the meetings going forward by the commission, I think would be awesome.
That is going to happen, and my understanding also, because I've gone through this whole thing when the complaints were made. So I just want to say that the police, because it took place at the police station, a number of police officers heard what was going on and were coming in to bring the peace to that section. So, and we're going to continue with a police presence at the meetings until folks can kind of, until we have an orderly meeting. But I am working with the commission, and I'm sure that it's going to continue to be it's very important. I agree with you, Jack. It's extremely important. And so I appreciate your words, and we've taken it under advisement, and we are moving forward. So
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, anyone else? Yes, Jim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to take this moment to also congratulate Tony D'Angelo on his award. And there's one thing that you guys didn't mention that I happen to know. He's been very instrumental in the plan of conservation and development for our town. Glenn's over there. He's worked with him 10 years ago. And so he continues to be involved in that small group with us. And so hats off to him and congratulations. Also, I didn't hear that Dr. Alfonsi died, and I just wanted to comment that he delivered me at Bradley Memorial Hospital. And he was my pediatrician until I was about 25 years old. So I'm going to miss him. He was always a man of super integrity, great smile. And
So we're still asking for lollipops
Wonderful
at
guy.
25. Yeah,
exactly.
that's it. It's over.
Yeah, I think we all have a Dr. Alfonsi story.
Some at the golf
My
course.
life.
He lived at the golf course. Dr. Alfonso, a good guy.
Yeah, indeed.
Plus.
Are there any other council matter communications? That was nice, Jim. Let's move on then. Town manager's report and communication, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce council for the first time officially, our new fire chief. So, Fire Chief Eric Heath, could you please come up? I'll let him talk about his history, but we all know Eric has been with us for many, many years. He worked his way up the chain. He was a fantastic in every position he was in. His last position was the assistant fire chief, which he served for I think 2 years. Eric?
Just about
2 years. And now, of course, he is
Not long
going to
enough.
now, of course, he's going to be our fire chief for the next foreseeable future.
I appreciate the opportunity. I am honored and privileged to be here, especially as the fire chief. I have large shoes to fill, following in Chief Paul's footsteps. But however, we work together collaboratively as a team. We had shared vision, shared goals, and I'll continue those. Again, I look forward to continuing to work collaboratively with the council, obviously the town manager, the boards, the department heads. We've built great relationships with our other department heads, like Ms. Sternquist here, and the building department as well. Again, I look forward to continuing positive momentum. I will just have to say our best asset is our people. And that's what makes our department great, and I look forward to just having an impact to try and make it better.
Thank you, Chief. You're going to be wearing your own shoes, I believe. You will set the pace, I'm sure. And I know that the firefighters have a great deal of respect for you, and the volunteers as well. So volunteer firefighters as well. So we congratulate you, and we're here to help. And congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you so much for coming.
Good luck.
Next item, Madam Chair, the Planning and Zoning Commission has finished Phase 1 using planimetrics. Glenn is here tonight. He may speak or may not, but what we like to do is, as the plan always was do Phase 2. Now, what they've been doing is they've been reviewing the regulations, making them more readable, and also taking care of all the conflicts in them. So I'm not going to steal their thunder to see what they're doing, but I know that the leading off is going to be the chair of the subcommittee who's handling the zoning regulations. Peter?
Good evening, Peter Santiago, Planning and
No, no,
Zoning, 201 Old Side Mill Road. So as Mark said, if you'll recall, in the spring, the council was gracious enough to allow us to do a review of the regulations and make them more user-friendly, and also, more importantly, to conduct an audit of what we have. And so those deliverables have been met, and they were shared with the commission last week by Glenn. And so the commission was very pleased with what we saw. The new regulation look and feel will have colors, will have process flow charts, will have clickable links, will have a quick start guide so that residents know when I come in, what am I supposed to do? Or an applicant, what am I supposed to do? And more importantly, how do I understand the process? What gets a public hearing legally and what doesn't get a public hearing? Things like that. And we also, you mentioned disabilities, and one of the suggestions that came out was not just colors, but not everyone can see a color. So have ADA shapes in there as well. And so the commission is very pleased. It has been a commission-wide effort. Everyone has had input on what they want to see. And so that's kind of how we operate there. So that has been very, very good. Now then, as part of the audit, we discovered some things. And so to talk about the findings, I'd like to introduce Glenn Chalder from Planimetrics, and also here today is our town planner, Mary Ellen Edwards as well. So Glenn, why don't you talk about the findings?
Thank you for coming, Glenn.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've had a chance to work with the commission on a number of issues over the years, so the room's starting to feel like home, which perhaps is also a little
Make
bit.
it nice and simple for us so we'll
I will.
understand.
I
Thank
will.
you.
It's always a challenge to get up and speak about the issues that we found in regulations, because you want to build something out of that situation, which I think is going to serve the town well. The zoning regulations in Southington have been around for decades, and it's pretty clear from the language that many of the provisions in the regulations have been around for decades. Also appears that the organization of the regulations has been around for decades. So what we have here, and what the major highlights of our findings were, is the organization of the regulations is unfriendly for users of the regulations. For people who appear before the commission regularly, they know the regulations like the back of their hand, but for residents who might have simple questions, it's almost impossible to find what it is that you need to know. So as a result, there's things which are not in intuitive places. And what that means for somebody is they have to read the entire book of regulations to get an answer to should be a fairly simple question. So our first goal is going to be to organize the regulations in a user-friendly way so it's intuitive for people right off the bat where to find the information that they need. We have a situation in the regulations which we've coined the phrase flippity-doodah for. What we mean by that is that the R80 zone identifies the uses permitted in that zone. The R40 zone says those uses plus maybe some others, then the R20-25, then the R12. So you get down to like the R12 zone and you say, what can I do in this zone? The issue is, well, go look at the R20, from there to the R40, and there to the R80. And it's hard to figure out, wait a sec, can I or can't I do that? And imagine how frustrating that would be when you want a simple answer to a question, what can you do with your property? There's some unclear provisions in the regulations and kind of gotchas. There's places in the regulation where it says you can do this. Another place in the regulation says, well, you can't do that. It's like, you come into town hall, you want to pull your permit, you've got everything ready to go, and staff says, no, actually look over here, you can't do that. So this sort of results in mistrust of the regulations, or the feeling like you have to hire an attorney or an engineer to answer some simple problems. There's some key provisions in modern day in terms of land use regulations, things like stormwater drainage, what we call LID, low impact development, and other provisions that only apply to certain zones and don't apply to other zones in town. Access management, which is really an issue on how we effectively use our roadways, are only in certain zones, not in others. And so illumination, lighting, these provisions really should be applying throughout town using the best practices possible. As was indicated by Peter, the procedures and the regulations are really not up to date. They're not tracking state law well. Changes from court cases and recent changes in state law. We want to sort of bring it into alignment with what the law provides and requires, and then use flow charts so that people say, okay, I understand. This is the applicant's responsibility. This is the commission's responsibility. This is what's going to happen, how the process is going to unfold. And people see that happen. And again, they develop comfort in the regulations. And really, I think the last thing I just wanted to bring to your attention this evening is that right now the regulations have been sequential in their construction. So when a new provision gets added, it gets added onto the end. And what that means for the future is when you want to add something new on, you got to add it onto the end and add it onto the end. And it makes the internal referencing the document challenging. So our goal is going to be create a hierarchical structure in the regulations, again, intuitively built and with the capacity for expansion in the future. And so that's our goal. So I'm excited to have the chance to continue working with the commission on this, to bring this forward and produce a great set of regulations for the town.
Thank you so much. Questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Glenn, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, so what we're, thank you, Glenn. And so what we're looking for, and Mary Ellen and Lou Perillo had a discussion, and I think it's in the letter of Mark sent to you, is that, many times town staff has a different interpretation of the same thing. And it's getting difficult, certainly for Mr. Perillo, to attract business because is this allowed or is it not? And so he has money in his budget under contracted services. Phase 2, which will complete the things that Glenn just talked about, would be a not to exceed contract. And so what we're asking for is for those funds that Lou has in his budget to be allocated to the commission to use for phase 2, such that this may be completed for that. And so that's the ask this evening. It was unanimously, I get that word out, approved by the commission last week and asked to move forward to the council. So with that, myself, Glenn, or Mary Ellen, if you have questions.
So, Madam Chair?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of, I know the 40,000 that we're going to take action on that. How extensive is this going to be? Like what will the time frame be? And
Yeah, we asked that, and we're hoping, with Glenn on the spot, it really depends on how many meetings we have, but like spring,
okay.
and the first quarter begins second quarter.
Okay. And then going forward, I mean, obviously this is something that hasn't been done for a long time, right? I mean, if we're being honest, how often should this be done? Like, how often should audits be done? Who would keep up on the,
Well, I
the
think,
state laws?
it's a good question. I think it's hard when you have a structure like we have,
Right.
where you have to go through it and must go through it manually.
Right, but
So-
as we change it.
Yeah. So now I think the structure will allow us to have better visibility of it. But I think in regards to keeping up on it, I think it's the state law stuff that's always an issue. And one of the things that I had proposed, because we started this subcommittee a few years ago, was first we got a historical record of all changes to regulations dating back to the 50s. That's all online now. So we know each and every time that was there. The next thing was to get into a cadence of review. But to do that, we have to get this done first to say, how would we do it? So structure first, and then the action after this was, how often do we want to review things like that?
And who would do the review?
Well, certainly the commission would do the review for that. If we need outside people, perhaps, but I think getting a better structure would help.
Allow the commission to do
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Is our thought.
Right,
Is our thought, certainly.
yep, okay, thanks.
Sure.
Great. Anyone else have any questions? Yes, go ahead, Jim.
Madam Chair, I have some comments. I did want to say, this is going to be a commercial for Planometrics, but I was involved in the POCD years ago. I think it was, how many years now? 7? Around
2016?
then. And I went in there not really knowing anything about that whole process and really having to join a group of people that really were not together before. And I just have to say that I think that Glenn has an uncanny ability to understand the issues and straighten it out. So it's very, very sensible and usable. And I want to comment that, so we did come together in the end with the document, which is our plan of conservation and development. And then just this past year, we went back to look at it again. And one of the things that Glenn was insistent on and that we agreed to is that we would assign owners of the elements of that plan. And we're reviewing with most of the key players. And what we're finding is that many of the things that we talked about were implemented and are in existence today. And so it's really heartening to me to look back and say, wow, 7 years ago, we said we wanted to try to preserve this area in town. We wanted to try and do something historic. And so it was very well thought, very well laid out, and it's also adaptable and adjustable. And so I think, I'm 100% behind whatever you want to do with them. I think that you'll do the same thing with the zoning regulations, and I think it'll be a great step for the town. So keep it up.
Yeah. I should say too, and it came up last week, new commissioners. You get to be a new commissioner on planning and zoning. You're handed a 260-page book and said, here, read this. Please don't get sued. And that's a bit unwieldy. And so to have a better tool for new people to get up to speed and for the public to understand the process, I think this is one of those legacy things when we look back and say, boy, wasn't it good we did that?
Madam Chair, just after, I served on planning and zoning for a lot of years, and the constant battle was making sure our regs were updated. And when I became chair of that board back in 2009, that's the first thing we did. We didn't have big money to pay Glenn back then, but we had a subcommittee to look at our regulations and make sure that they're up to, I think Paul served on that, and Steve Kalkowski. I'm not sure if Jim did, but that's the constant battle. So I'm delighted that we're able to do that again. And I tend to agree with Jim that Planometrics is the company to do it. They're just wonderful, very easy to work with, and Glenn is a person. Yep.
And just to give credit to the two subcommittee members, Joe Coviello and Caleb Coles.
Yeah.
Originally Sue Locks was on this subcommittee, and then when she left, I volunteered Caleb, who's been fantastic on it as well. So it's been a great thing.
Peter, thank you for everything.
Certainly.
We appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Mark, we're moving on.
Madam Chair, the next item I have, we briefly touched on at your last meeting, but we're looking for scheduling of a public hearing for this. Some of you may remember we had this once before, and because the sunsetted out, we did not put it back in place. But this is a tax abatement specifically for industrial zones I-1 and I-2. What it does is it allows the property owner to put in infrastructure which is turned over to the town, which is roads, drainage, et cetera. And the price of that can be abated through a 5-year abatement. So, for example, if you spend $1 million on a road, which I used to say was outrageous, but it's not so outrageous anymore, they could try and get as much as possible off a 5-year period. Obviously, if they spend if they spend $1 million, but their taxes are only X number of dollars over a 5-year period, they only get that. They don't get the $1 million. If they spend less than their 5-year taxes, then they don't get the full 5-year taxes. They get whatever they actually put in. It was very successful when we had this. I believe it was 4 years ago. It sunsetted, but it was pretty successful. I believe the last one we did was west. Over off of Canal Street. I think was it called West was it? That's where we have the fire chief. Westfield. So it was Westfield. No, it's very successful. So in this particular case, I know that the strike committee brought this up and they unanimously recommended to the council. Happy to answer any questions, but I'm not looking for anything other than to schedule for a public hearing tonight.
Excellent. Any questions? Al?
Just a quick question. So how will notice go out to people, residents in town that this is going to take place?
Well, we have we have to do the public hearing.
After, that's what I mean,
which is
after,
done.
after the.
And then what happens is it becomes a tool of Lou Perillo. He uses it as a
So
marketing tool.
he'll use it, okay, all right.
That's how it usually works. Economic development uses this as a marketing tool.
Right, okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, if we
Yes,
can
please.
ask the town manager, are you looking for October 10th, Mark?
It'll be your next meeting is a 10th or whatever, the day after Columbus Day. So I'm not sure which day that is.
Oh, it's
10th or
Tuesday.
11th.
So that would be the 11th,
11th,
Tuesday,
yeah.
the 11th?
Tuesday the 11th, yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I have a
please.
question for the town manager. The document also says that it does not apply towards residential, commercial, or mixed use. I'm just curious why those items were excluded. I mean, if we have a commercial entity, commercial zone looking to, make improvements for the town for a specific and receive a tax abatement, wouldn't that benefit the town in the long term to consider those?
It was only talking about doing industrial. We very seldom have business subdivisions. They're usually, if we're talking about subdivisions, which is road and drainage, those are industrial subdivisions. Very few people put in business subdivisions. And obviously, Mr. Pearl and the strike committee talked about the fact of where they wanted to head, and this is what they recommended.
What keeps rising to the top, Madam Chair, sorry, Mayor.
You don't want to do residential.
No,
You don't want to do
Right,
residential.
right. Well, what keeps rising to the top where Lou is kind of battling is the infrastructure, is putting roads in, putting
Sure.
drainage in. The price has doubled.
It's expensive.
Yes.
Really
So
expensive.
this will really benefit anyone that wants to come in and put industrial use in, which the town needs.
Yes.
We have we have companies that want to come to town, but there's not a lot of inventory.
Right.
And when the inventory problem is licked, then the problem of using the money or getting the money to put the infrastructure in, the road particularly, is the most
And-
expensive part.
And not a shock, but the individual person could put a road in and for cheaper than the town could do it,
Really?
for many reasons.
Okay.
The next,
Yes, go ahead.
I have one question for the town manager. Again, I know this is early on in this. Is there going to be like more of guidelines that the council and the economic strike committee has to kind of follow on this?
as to how they apply?
Yeah,
Yes.
and approve.
Yeah, tax abatement is applied through the Economic Development Office. And then it usually gets a recommendation by either seed or strike committee. If it's in an enterprise zone, it goes to the seed. Anywhere else, it goes to strike. There's a recommendation, a vote that then comes to the council, and the council is the only one who can grant the tax abatement.
So I guess my question is there a guideline that would allow it to be obviously shot down or not qualify? Or is it any I-1I development?
You can only apply if it's I-1, I-2. It has to be, obviously, it gets recommended by the Economic Development Coordinator to the committee I just talked about. Anywhere along the way, obviously, even if the committee or C committee does not recommend it come to the council, the council gets to do that. But to answer your question, all tax abatements have the same thing, is in the best interest of the town of Southington.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Let's move on, please.
All right, we had a short meeting of the Board of Finance, two major issues. The first one is, I'm happy to say, not that this is going to continue for the whole year, but being 2 months into the fiscal year, we're already $650,000 above our budget. So that's actually positive news. I can't guarantee that's going to happen for the remainder of the year, but that is very good news. That comes from usually two categories. As you can see, the biggest one is the town clerk's office. Kathy, thank you very much. Which obviously has to do with, big areas selling, such as the property on West Street. There's a large building which used to be that housed the insurance building that was sold for, I believe, $18 million.
$18 million.
$18 million. So we obviously get tax for that. And then there's a lot of other ones. So obviously, we've been working out fairly well there. The building department, of course, is very busy, and they're collecting quite a bit of fees. The second thing is, this is the fourth year that we did the carryover for the BOE. The carryover $495,848, which was approved by the Board of Finance. Of that, $238,986 is going to be used for a salary item called the 27th pay period. Every once in a while, when you get paid every other week in a fiscal year, you get the 27th pay period. So that's what that's for. The rest of it, we'll hear from the Board of Education on what they want to use that through the Board of Finance, probably as we get closer to the spring. Any questions on that? The next item I'm going to take all at once, but the Public Works Director is here. Annette, would you want to come up? This is all going to be used for ARA money, and I know that you're going to tell me you've seen these 2 or 3 times already, but as I mentioned before, when I did ARA, each time we do an individual project, even though the grant scope was approved by the Board of Finance and Town Council, each individual product still comes to the council. So the first one, Annette, if you would talk about, is the actual improvements to Recreation Park, which is the first thing.
So you've all seen this spreadsheet that's getting passed out before. It basically lays out how we plan to spend our ARPA money. It gets revised kind of often. When we first put it together, of course, we had our best estimates on here. As we go out to bid for each individual project, I put the actual number in. Those are the ones in red. So you can see which ones we have real numbers for and which ones are still estimates. And that was just some general information, but these 3 projects I'm going to talk about are the latest that we actually went out to bid or got hard numbers on. So the first one, as Mark mentioned, is improvements to Recreation Park, which was or is part of the Parks Master Plan. There were several separate items which I basically lumped together because they all pertain to Rec Park and can't really do pavement without doing drainage. They're all related. And those were parking and drive improvements for $425,000, drainage improvements near the football building for $100,000, site work and drainage improvements near the concession building for $1,000, improve the softball drainage for $100,000, and accessible routes to the ball fields for $25,000. So basically, our budget for this work was $750,000. I have 3 vendors for this work. Tilcon. They're on the state bid. They'll be doing the paving, grading and the paving. Valentine is doing concrete work, sidewalk work for us. They currently hold a bid with the town, a contract with the town for that work. And River Valley holds a contract for drainage work. So they've been doing the drainage work out there. But they all come together. If you total it all up and add a 10% contingency, we were looking for $677,428.77. Since our original budget was $750, a lot of times I'll take the difference and allocate it somewhere else. But I would like to maintain the right to maybe use that money in the future because you never know what you're going to find when you start doing these projects. We may come up with another part that needs to be paved or whatever. So I would like to not move that 750, the remainder to another area. I'd like to keep it there. But for this particular project, like I said, just over $677,000 for the paving, the concrete work, and the drainage. Okay. The next one.
Questions for the director?
I had one, just an item that, as you were talking, it's okay, Madam Chair, right? Yeah, sorry. I remember a couple years ago when you and maybe 1 or 2 others had given me kind enough to give me the tour of the highway department. We had talked, I think, about some of the aging vehicles in the fleet, and I noticed that we've got a lot of one-time things here that we're beefing up around town. Are we going to consider any type of investment to continuously upgrade our fleet there? I know, like, for example, our plows, they get a lot of usage, right? We do a lot of our own roadways, with some external support as well as overflow. But I think at the time you guys had mentioned that there was some aging vehicles there and that in the future, probably not so distant, we might need to pay attention to that. So do we have any plans for new snowplow trucks or large trucks like that for any of these type of funds? And if not, maybe can we take a look?
Well, not for these funds. We brought this spreadsheet to the Board of Finance and to the Town Council when we laid it out, which is, categorized. We have the Parks Master Plan. There were pump stations, et cetera. So these categories were already approved. Mm-hmm. We come back for approval of specific amounts and vendors for the projects. I think what
he's asking for, Annette, is our vehicle capital plan, which we have, which is a separate.
Right, but we're not
funding
using
source.
ARPA
Right.
funds.
It might not be on this.
Briefly explain it,
Sure.
so the question came up. We have a capital plan that we have for the big vehicles, and you've been funding them for the last bunch of years on our capital plan. But just briefly discuss that.
Right, we have a whole replacement plan. It goes out more years than any of us will probably be here. But we do ask for a truck or two, depending on what's slated for that year in the capital improvement plan. Unfortunately, right now, we're a little behind, not because you haven't approved it and we haven't ordered it. We just have had a truck on order for a long time. It hasn't come in yet. We've ordered a second one. We're waiting for that to come in. I don't think we're going to have them before winter, which is
These are
unfortunate.
plows.
Yes.
That's
but,
great.
You know, we'll make do with what we have. And
It just
that's all
rang
we
in my
can
head.
do.
I remember walking through the shop there, and I remember you all saying that those were needs for the future. So I'm glad you got it on the list.
Yeah, we do. We do have some trucks from the 80s. They're max
Yeah.
and they still function well, so we use them. You know, I have good mechanics down there, so we do our best. Any more questions about the rec improvements before we move on?
Oh, no.
Tom, anybody? Okay. Thanks.
Okay. This one's a little simpler. This is replacement of the kiddie playscape at Rec Park. It's for 2 to 5 year old children. We had budgeted $125,000 and we came in at $124,995.
Wow.
I know, which was nice because it also includes the poured in place rubber surface and demolition of the existing one. So that was great. And we're going through M.E. O'Brien and Sons, who's also on the Connecticut state bid. With the ARPA money, we have to be very careful that we're either using the state bid or a CROG bid, or we've gone out to bid. So all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And any questions on that one?
Is there any gonna be downtime for that in that, for the place game?
I don't have the schedule yet because I haven't given the final approval. I hope to do it during the school year. I mean, I wouldn't want to do something like that in summer, but I think we're actually going to move it because where it is now, it floods once in a while. And with the rubber surface, you don't really want that to flood. So we're going to move it uphill a bit. So we could actually leave the old one in place while we put the new one in. So probably not. Sure. Okay. And the last one, the big one, is the recreation park pool. We've been talking about this for several years now because there were some deficiencies, structural deficiencies in the pool that's there. We originally had budgeted $1,545,000, which was supposed to be enough to cover the pool and the pool house. Because so many years had passed and inflation has done what it has done, when we got the price for the pool rehabilitation recently, it was almost $2.5 million. So we went back to the drawing board and did some value engineering, as Mark loves us to do. And through working with the pool contractor we work with often and Millennium Builders, we were able to get the construction costs down to $1,187,738. Basically, they changed the whole plan. It involves a few things. One thing is we're not going to do anything to the kiddie pool. There's nothing wrong with the kiddie pool. It doesn't really, need any updating. I know a lot of kids and parents like the kiddie pool. Memorial Pool was removed several years ago and we put in the splash pad. So we have the splash pad available there. I think it's also nice to have, a variety and keep the kiddie pool at Rec Park. So that's fine. The original plan was to build another concrete pool basically inside the pool that's there to save money on demolition, which would bring it up a little bit, but we could account for that in site work. But now, since we were looking at the budget, they've suggested going with a commercial grade liner, which quite honestly I didn't know was a possibility until they mentioned it. It still will extend the life of the pool 20 plus years. We'll still get the new mechanicals, piping, et cetera, everything else that was planned for that project. I think that, Millennium has shown a great willingness to work with the town through this value engineering. I also think, with that bid going out through CROG, it basically they're 2-year contracts with 1-year extension. And right now we're in the 3rd year of that bid. So I think it's smart in this particular case to go through the easy IQC process and use Millennium because we're basically using pricing from 3 years ago, which is a huge benefit. I think if we went out to bid right now, our prices would probably come in higher than what they've quoted us. I will be coming back because we do need to get the pool house renovated as well. BL just finished the plans, so I don't have the finalized cost, but it's going to be around $400,000 with a 10% contingency. We're expecting it to be about $440,000. That will exceed the original budget we had, but we do have some flexibility in the spreadsheet. The first row, the catch basin pipe repair, that's a very easy row for me to move money around in, only because we have so many other accounts that we use for those things, such as Town Aid Road, widen resurface drainage. I mean, we're kind of used to paying for those items out of those accounts anyway, so the ARPA money is really a bonus there. But like I said, it doesn't hurt us that much to move it out of that line. So that's what I have done to account for what the pool house renovation will likely come in at. So for the pool, the pool itself, I'll come back for the pool house. I'm requesting that $1,306,511.90 be appropriated. This includes a 10% contingency. And also, because the way the Easy IQC projects are priced, everything's very itemized, we often don't use a lot of the contingency. So if we don't use it, that can go back into this spreadsheet and be used elsewhere. I know that was a lot of information. Any questions?
Yeah. Paul, go ahead.
I have two questions, Annette. The first was, can you restate? You said that when you went out to quote for the entire pool bid, it was 2.5 million was the number that it came in at?
That was the estimate after plans had been done.
Okay. And what was the original estimate before plans?
Before the plans, it was $1,545,000, which was for the pool and the pool house. We were expecting the pool to come in right around $1 million. But again, we've been working on this for several years.
And the pool, so what did the pool come in at? You said the pool you were estimating the pool at $1 million, but it came in at what?
$1,187,738.09.
But overall, you budgeted 1.5 and it
Yes.
came in at 2.5.
The original option came in at 2.5.
Yeah, so-
after value engineering, we came down.
It went up, it went up over 50%
Yeah.
in a handful of years. When you use the term value engineering, I get concerned. And I think that there's some attributes that are probably passable, but I do get concerned about when I hear about a liner. It's a wear item, and when I think about the heavy use that our pools get, I'm concerned that although it may be a tougher liner, I'm sure as a pool liner owner, I'm concerned that the abuse that they take is going to put us at risk for downtimes, for punctures, for issues that may arise. Over chlorination, which we do use, we do run these at higher chlorinated values because it's a public pool versus a private pool. I can run mine at much lower. They completely destroy those liners when you run those things there. So I'm concerned about the liner. I'll be quite frank with you. I think our parks are a gem in our community, and I'm just concerned. I don't recall ever seeing a public park with a liner. So have you done any type of benchmarking with any other municipalities, 2 or 3, who have used the liner that you're proposing, and maybe for 5 or 8 years, and get some of the feedback on that?
I haven't reached out to other municipalities. I can talk to them and find out, who may have them. I cringed
I'm
as
concerned
well
about
because
it.
I have a pool too, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. But it's not, from what I understand, it's not really puncturable. It's much more durable. Like I said, it'll last 20 years. But I can reach out to Custom Aquatics and get a spec on it for you. Maybe I can even get a sample so you could actually see it. The fact that it lasts 20 years is pretty impressive. You're not going to get that out of your...
I will say, like they say a residential pool liner lasts 10 or 12 years, but
Maybe.
When they get to 7, 8 years, they're typically faded. They don't look good. They're thinner, they're worn, and that's going to be a reflection on the parks and the investment that we're making now for years to come. How long has it been since we did the pool last time? Has it been about 20 years?
Rec Park?
Yeah, when we redid Rec Park.
Rec Park, the pool has never been redone.
And that's
We fixed a crack several years ago. But
So when we added the mushroom and all that, we didn't replace.
when the kiddie pool?
Yeah, we didn't replace the larger pool at the same time.
No, that there's never been anything done to Rec.
So-
To my knowledge.
Memorial.
Well, I know Memorial was done, but I thought we upgraded our pool there some years ago. And if we hadn't, then that's a testament to the how long the original finishes, which were stone or concrete or, I mean, they're probably then more than 50 years old.
Probably, and that would remain in place, which I think is a benefit, but the liner will act as a sealer, so we don't have to worry about the cracking, because there are some issues with the structure, with the rebar.
Yeah.
But I'd be happy to get a spec for you. Like I said, maybe I can even get a sample.
At the very least, I mean, if we're spending this kind of money, I would definitely like to get some testimonials from others who have used the liner for a number of years before agreeing on it. That's my suggestion.
Anybody else?
Just one thing, when Annette and I met with the contractor, that Annette asked that question several times. So we kind of felt comfortable when we heard liner two, we talked about that, but Annette will get the information from our contractor who's actually working on it for us, doing the design and everything, who came up with this idea, because that was one of the questions we asked also.
Fair.
Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
I think Councilman Chaplinsky brings up a good point. So the pool that's there now has been there for 50 years? No. Longer?
It couldn't be
I
50
don't
years.
think it's
because
that long.
I swim in the pond there for many years, so it was probably 30, 35
But it's got to be
years.
30
Okay,
plus
so
years.
35 years, the one that's made out of concrete. I think we also, when you look into the specs on the PVC liner, I think we should also understand how long a new concrete pool would last. Because if the old one lasted 35 years, I don't know, maybe a new one is expected to last 50 years.
yeah.
So to Councilman Chaplinsky's point, if we need to spend a little bit more money and we're going to get a concrete pool that's going to last for 50 years, that might be the play. So I think when we get to action on this item, I think it would be appropriate for a table on this one. That was my first comment. My second comment is I want to thank Board of Finance, Council, and town staff for this document right here. We're still seeing articles around the state of Connecticut for other towns and cities that have come up with committees, that have come up with applications for the American Rescue Plan Act money. And the processes that we're seeing are just really mind-boggling, to say the least. I think Southington's procedure over this process was very clear from the start, very transparent for the taxpayers, and very appropriate for the Southington of today and the Southington of the future. Lastly, the question I have is what happens to these funds if we come under budget on a specific line item? That'll be my first question. Second question is more of a plug, and I spoke about this a month or two ago about Panthorn Park. I see it in the column for 2023 and 24, but I'm hoping that maybe the town manager and the director of public works can meet with Dave LaPrey, our director of recreation, and possibly find some funds, whether it be $5,000 or $10,000, to help support the disc golf facility up at Panthorn Park. So if there are some excess funds, I hope that maybe we can take in consideration for that. So
I will say that we do help them out when they ask.
Right.
Is it Matt
Yeah,
Blanco?
Matt Blanco.
We
Yep.
have a very good relationship with him, and he comes in. He sometimes needs stone. I mean,
Right.
we have some at the transfer station. We deliver it. We've helped them. If they need help installing signs or what have you. So I mean,
Right.
it would be nice, to give them a chunk of money, but to set aside a chunk of money. But we do what we can. I
Right.
mean, they do a great job up there. They really do.
thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Madam Chair, so Councilor Lombardi, that raises a good question that I had been thinking about. So if there's excess funds when most of this is done, where will those funds go?
Well, there won't be excess funds because we're taking it, as Annette already told you, we're taking it away from the top part in the green. So,
Oh, okay.
see, what happens is we've been moving funds because we've been short, yeah.
But you're moving it from, just in these boxes, right? Because this is what's already been approved.
Right. But
So is there ever going to be, I mean, Mr. Lombardi's making a comment, maybe some funds can be given to Panthorn for the disc golf. That's something that's not on.
Correct, correct.
So I guess, and to your point, the reason that a lot of these towns had set up committees and things like that is because there's other ways that the funds could have been used, which we chose not to. And I think what we've done is really good. But there's nonprofits and businesses and things like that. So should we have looked to some of that maybe. So I guess that's my question. If there's, I know, I'm not sure how you could say there won't be excess funds unless you basically are just going to, you're just going to keep moving money down. It really depends on what the costs
Because,
are.
exactly, the bids are. Right now, we've
Right.
received
But
one.
these are coming in pretty, right now, there's an excess, a couple 100,000, right, on these?
No,
few.
we were over budget on our pump station by a lot.
No, I'm just talking about these three.
Oh, okay, I think you meant the whole thing.
No.
We're talking about the whole sheet?
No,
Okay.
just these three in front of us, there's a bit of an excess. I mean, and like if
Well,
the
the number
10%.
we have right now for the pool is only for the pool. It doesn't include the pool house.
Okay,
which is
so
gonna
that's
be
why there's excess there.
You're right, which is going to be
there.
about 400.
I
But
think-
the first one, in that, it was 750, right? And even with the contingency, it's 677
But I may still need that money. But
for
that's
something else in here, right?
or even something pertaining to Rec Park because
Okay.
that's getting done. Tilcon's coming at the mid to end of October. And something always comes up when you're paving, whether we have to add another catch basin or you just never know. You might have to reclaim something you were planning on milling, which is more expensive. So yeah, I'm reserving the right to not reallocate that difference yet.
Right, and I understand that. I mean, the funds, I believe, have to be spent by the end of year
December of 24.
24. So that's my question, just if in the end, there are excess funds, then
Well, then,
We could deal with them at
as
that
long,
point,
as long as
right?
it fits the categories of the ARPA funds.
the
it's able to do
ARPA,
it.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's-
as long as it
it's a
fits
category.
those four categories, we're not I guess my question is, we're not limited to use those excess funds for this spreadsheet.
If we have
Get
more,
everything
yeah,
done.
if there's more money than this, I'm just telling you, if you look at the whole sheet as a whole, remember, we went very much over budget on I forget how many hundreds of thousands we were over budget on the pump station. So if you're looking at the whole sheet, if you're looking at individual ones, yes, there's some that are going to be under budget, but we started off in the beginning with the pump stations being substantially over budget.
Okay.
But I have a better, we have a better way of doing when you fund, if you're funding something like, do they need stuff put in for what they're doing over there at Panther, and that's one thing. But if they're looking for funding, like leagues looking for funding, we have a whole section of our budget where if they request money in the recreation part of the budget, any group that has sports in Southington can request, and we have a whole list of them. You've seen them in the budget probably 10 times. We give money for that. So that might be in more of an appropriate way, because I'm always fearful about giving money to a group that you'd give every year with ARPA funds. It'd have to be
Right,
just specifically to do if it's something's concrete, no pun intended, that's what you use ARPA money for. But if a group like Southern Little League, who we give X number of thousands of dollars to every year, you wouldn't do that with ARPA funds. You would do that through the recreation.
Right, and the ARPA funds, you're required to use those funds in a certain way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, okay.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, Chris, please.
So just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, for last year, the fiscal ended June 30th, the two big ticket items were the detention pond, cleaning and inspection. How did that come in compared to the budget? So we spent $557,000.
That was on everything in the green.
Right. But how did that compare to the budget that you had?
They were over.
That was over, okay. And then the Plansville pump station was 720 and change. And what was the original estimate for that?
That price, I think we had pretty early on in the approval process.
That was already
Yeah.
bid by the time we did this for me. So that's correct.
It was the last
The other
three.
two, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Old Turnpike, Pattonbrook,
Oh,
and
okay.
Juddbrook.
We had $990,000 for all the pump stations, and as you see, some came in at $1.2 million
Yeah. I see.
and $1.1 million. So I believe we're $300 and something thousand over
I think
budget
so,
on the
too.
pump station, something in that ballpark.
Yeah.
Okay, so the price escalation really for this, when we're talking about the pump stations, Old Turnpike, Pattonbrook, and Juddbrook, those are the costs that really skyrocketed.
It's kind of when it started, yeah.
And the pool. And the pool.
Yeah,
of
and the
course.
pool.
On the pool.
Okay.
But the other ones are fixed costs. Remember, we signed the contract for the trucks. That's fixed. We know what that number is going to be. And then the money we're giving to the water department, that's a fixed number. So those will be those numbers.
Chair, can we, just for, just to document the requests, can we get one more time, what the recommendation is for funds for rec park improvements and then also the kiddie playscape?
It's on her sheet.
Right on the sheet.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to make them on the one you're not tabling, you just simply say as presented, and the sheet itself would be the
Okay.
document.
Yep. Thanks. We'll get that from the back.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
I have a couple quick questions. Thank you. And that, I guess my first question is the 2.5 million that was originally budgeted for this, or you got quotes on, do you know what year that was roughly? And did that include
was
the
recent.
pool? Did that include the pool house?
No, it did not.
Okay. How about the 1.5? I apologize. I picked the wrong
No,
number.
that's okay.
The 1.5. Did that include the pool house
That
originally?
did include the pool house,
So it's a huge price increase.
right?
$1 million.
Over a matter of a couple years.
Oh.
When we started looking at this and when we actually got prices.
So yeah. So with the liner, it's almost 1.2 roughly, and that doesn't even
Just for the
include
pool.
and doesn't even include
Right.
the pool. I don't want to beat the liner up anymore, but is there any warranty? I know you say 20 years, and it just reminds me of like roofing shingles, right? You know, people say go architectural and you get more years. Is there any warranty, with the 20-year expectancy on that? Prorated or anything?
Sure.
I would imagine there would be. I don't know what the time of that would be, but when I ask for the specification, I can ask for that too. It's probably in that information.
Okay. And thank you for putting this presentation together for the entire council. I just, again, if we didn't have the American Rescue Plan funds, these are all big ticket items that it would just, again, come right down to our mill rate, unfortunately. And to echo off of what Tom Lombardi stated with disc golf, I walked that with Matt Bunko a few weeks ago, and it's amazing up there. And after COVID, they've had an uptick. So I would love to see some of these funds, if there's anything left over, go to that, especially during COVID. The amount of participation that they had was big, and obviously these are pretty much COVID relief funds. So I think, targeting programs like that would be very important. So again, thanks to all the volunteers up there, because again, what they're doing, and he did give you guys a plug in there that you guys have given them dumpsters and stuff for, I think, brush, and they're really cleaning up the woods and doing an amazing job. So thank you for helping and supporting them.
Thank you. And a little unrelated from ARPA funds, but just since we're talking about the parks, I just want to let you know that the pickleball courts at Panthorn Park were completed and today.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's it for our report tonight, Madam Chair.
Playing Mark tomorrow at noon.
Thank you so much. Annette, thank you very much. It was very informative, and we do appreciate the very clear rundown of the spending and the projections. Thank you. Town Attorney's report.
Just briefly, Madam Chair, I signed the contract today for the conflicts review for the town council and myself regarding the fair rent commission formation. I expect it back sometime next week, and I'll get it over to the entire council when it comes in right away.
May I ask you, Alex, we have the matter down for discussion this evening, but I would like to know your feeling on that, because we haven't seen that document yet.
You mean the level of detail, Madam Chair?
I think it's safe, and I've spoken with several people. I think it's to have discussion on it, but I wouldn't have substantive discussion on it or take any significant action with policy tonight. But general discussion, how you entail the discussion to go forward over the next week, 2 weeks, months, 3 months is fair, as long as we're not talking about policy itself.
Policies and stuff right now.
Absolutely.
So we really shouldn't get into the adaptation of the proposed plan at this juncture.
Correct, but you can absolutely talk about how you envision the discussion and implementation to go about.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I just, I spoke with the town attorney this morning. So, Alex, if tonight we wanted to move forward and have a sample ordinance go to the ordinance committee, that's not policy or procedure, so we would be able to do that.
I wouldn't recommend giving them anything. I think you can refer the matter to the ordinance committee because that has no policy whatsoever. But you
Can we refer the matter to them and give them
handout,
a handout, the toolkit? Because the
as long
toolkit,
as there's no recommendation about it.
right, we're just giving them the toolkit
Correct.
and sending it, because here's the situation that I see is the town attorney's not going to get a legal opinion for at least a couple weeks.
Next week. It should
Maybe
have something
ne-
next week.
Okay. So we could, to move this, we could have it go to the ordinance committee, and the ordinance committee can set up their first meeting, which might be 2 weeks out anyways. And so maybe by the time they have their first meeting, we'll have the legal opinion, and that will pertain to members of the ordinance committee as well, as if there's going to be any conflicts. It would allow the ordinance committee to start to look at like a sample ordinance in the toolkit, look at the annotations, look into what other towns are doing. You know, I reviewed about 9 towns myself, and they're doing some different things, but most of them are following the statute and the sections in the statute. Their fair rent commissions are not advisory by nature. They are doing what the statute is telling them that they should be doing, or recommending that they should be doing. So even if it goes to the ordinance committee and the chair of the ordinance committee, if he believes he might have a perceived conflict, he can start a meeting, and if there's a quorum of members that do not believe they have a conflict, they can at least have a meeting and get this started. So I hate to see this just keep staying on our agenda when the process truly is to get it to the ordinance committee. Because if we're going to have discussion here and have to wait for the legal opinion, we're doing the work of the ordinance committee then. And as long as the town attorney believes we could send this to the ordinance committee and we're not in jeopardy of
Under
conflicts.
old business and item C, we really is the discussion, Val, so I would like to.
Okay, well, the
continue.
town attorney has brought it up.
Well, he
so-
did bring it up, and you've asked your question and talked about that, but further discussion on it, I think we should be reserved on the agenda to item C.
Item H.
I was going to say.
I'm sorry, on item H.
Okay, well, I don't want to have to repeat myself again. We might as well at least have that on
So,
the
but I
record.
guess this isn't the time for debate, right?
Okay, I'm not
No,
debating it.
no.
I'm just,
That was just my report. I
Just his
have nothing
report.
further.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for the attorney? Yeah,
One thing from the
Chris?
town attorney before. We just got our revised subcommittee listing tonight. I don't know how I didn't notice it before, but actually there's an error in here under Apple Harvest Committee.
Oh.
It says 3 members for a quorum, I believe, 4, 7-member committee. So just want to bring that to attention.
Good eye, good eyes. Yep.
It obviously has been
I
that
didn't
way.
even you didn't even look at it. It's been so busy.
We could make that as
Can we make that-
administrative, without objection, we'll make that as administrative change.
Is that okay with everybody? Let's just make that, and that'll be great. Thank you, Mark. All right, very good. Thank you, Attorney Ricardone. Right now, we're going to go into public communication. We invite members of the public to come to be respectful, and we will be respectful back to you. We are here to listen, so.
Regina Coviello, 12 Beecher Street, and I would like to thank you. I was going to ask if that could be put in. I just want to kind of a brief summarization of what was going on. In regards to the disability meeting, and I'm sorry about the dates, I do have some, sometimes issues with that stuff. In regards to the members of the commission, there was some gossiping, there was confusion over where they were in the agendas, the agenda itself. At times, there were like separate conversations going on, so you couldn't even understand what was being said. There were some inappropriate comments. There were a lot of false statements in regard to previous members, speaker, to every speaker that spoke. Every one of us that got up there, someone had to interrupt and say, no, you're wrong. and they wouldn't let us finish. And then I'll give you an example is I started to bring up like transportation, and I started to bring up how electric cars, we're phasing out gas cars. I couldn't get into that when, boom, no, that's never going to happen. Da, da, da. Well, the very next day, I don't know if you saw it, but President Biden was on TV talking about that and his phase out. So that was one of the things. I kind of got frustrated and said, I'm done, you know, because every time we were getting interrupted. They do have to change one thing. They used a timer, but then they would interrupt you and, you know, tell you're wrong. So if you're using a timer and you're interrupting, then how can you have an accurate time? Okay, so they need to let you speak, let the timer, you know, go, and then comment, discuss afterwards. Because it was frustrating, confusing. There were some people, they didn't even get to speak because they started shutting off some of the lights and then kind of told everybody to leave because they were trying to silence one of the people that was speaking. There was no final adjournment. Just because we may not agree with the speaker doesn't mean that we don't have a right to speak. I don't even have to ask this because you're already going to be looking into it, but I was going to say I'm not asking. I'm asking, no, I'm begging for you to guys to work together as a town council, come up with some real solutions on this matter. Someone may need to step in, and because I know that a lot of them are new members, they may need to step in and guide them through proper procedures and protocols. But I will say that there are some of the previous members that members that are still there but have been there for a while. That was where there was a lot of false stuff, and that's got to be addressed seriously. And that, because like I said, even with this, no, you weren't allowed to show something. You were wrong. It was nothing. You were wrong. No ands, ifs, and buts about it. And one thing I thought about afterwards was there wasn't many people there. But if we had had more people at that meeting and there was somebody, say a child or someone that had more of a mental, disability, this could have set them off. Okay. And now, I mean, if I had seen a kid, that would have been horrible. You know, so we have to think about all the disabilities that people have when, we're doing this. It needs to be more calm. And like I said, I'm glad that you were putting that in the minutes. I thank you. And look into it. And I think they definitely need guidance. Like I said, I know they're new in that, but things need to be changed. And it doesn't seem like anything changed from the time before. And it may be because it's the same people that are still there. It may not even be so much newer people. I don't know. Okay. But I thank you for your time.
Tom Catricala, 204 Stonegate Road. I'm also here to talk about the Commission for Persons with Disabilities. The last commission meeting, every resident who wanted to speak, they were either cut off, argued with, or just shut down. These interruptions made it difficult for any Southington residents to voice concerns or advocate for solutions. Since I didn't get an opportunity to speak then, I'm going to say what I wanted to say. There are over 5,000 people with disabilities in Southington. Among this community, there's one issue that is constantly mentioned. There is no access to affordable and reliable transportation in town. Southington is the only town of its size not only in the state, but also in the nation that has no public transportation. Existing services such as Calendar House and Your Community Cares and United Way is another one, these aren't enough. They require notice in advance, and many only go to set locations. No existing services are available for emergencies or consistent transportation, unless you are forced to pay either Uber or Lyft. Doing this back and forth to work, at least from my work here, home to work, it was $15 to $30 every trip. It adds up. A bus line in Southington would reduce the cost burden on residents by upwards of $10,000 a year with a bus line. Public transit can bring freedom to our community. For over 50 years, people with disabilities have been denied that freedom, the freedom to enjoy Southington to its fullest extent. However, every time this issue is brought up, no matter the commission or board, the answer has always been, it's not the right time, it's out of our hands, there's just nothing we can do. In fact, there are multiple commissioners that misrepresent or diminish services that having a bus line brings to town. One of these things is paratransit, which ensures that if a town who has a bus line, if there's still someone who is too inconvenienced, if they're still unable to get on a bus, they will still be provided reliable and affordable transportation. We can't keep pushing this issue off. As the population grows and ages, more and more people will be relying on public services for transportation. I like to tell people that we're all temporarily able-bodied. I'd like to ask that the council work with local and state leaders to work on bringing a bus line to Southington. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak tonight? Hearing none, I'm going to close public communication. Yes?
Can I just make a suggestion? We spoke about the Commission for Disability earlier, hearing the two speakers. I know we talked about earlier tonight, recording the meetings moving forward. I think that's a good step. Can I also request, at least for the next couple meetings, we have the town attorney, if not the town attorney, maybe the assistant town attorney, attend those meetings just to act as a parliamentarian to make sure that proper Robert's Rules of Procedures are followed properly at those meetings. Again, not indefinitely, but just at least for the next couple meetings to get that commission back on track. I think that is a fair request based on some comments that I'm hearing, and I think that may be better.
Also, I think there was something else as I've been investigating this whole thing, speaking to different people, hearing different comments. I am very concerned about the safety of that commission. And so, I am in the process of speaking with the community resource officer for the PD. He witnessed, he heard some of the very sad situation that happened. So it looks as if we're going to have a police officer at those meetings as well. And so I'm fine with that. Alex, if possible, could you make a spot in your
Somebody
schedule?
will be there. Paul or I will be there.
I think it's very important at this time, and I do appreciate that, Chris. I think that is very good. I have been to every meeting since this new commission came about, and I happened not to be there last week, and so I'm very sorry I wasn't there, but that's just whatever. So, yeah, so I think those things are moving forward, and the communication, the commission is there. As you see, there is an opening, and we're going to talk about that this evening. So thank you. I appreciate that. Let's move forward.
Madam Chair, would I be able to say something real quick?
About, sure.
Yeah, about this. So I guess my question is, I've attended one of the meetings as well, and I've watched the meeting minutes. You know, that commission, are they supposed to get a charge or guidance from the council what we want them to be working on, or should they be working on things and then bring it to the council?
No. They're an independent. They bring it to us when they have a statement from a commission, like any other commission. So they would bring a report when they have something that they wish to share the council.
So we don't give them any guidance because again, one of the meetings I was at, I overheard that they wanted us to kind of give them guidance on something.
And we have been doing that, and we will continue to do that. Certainly, the town's attorney has been available for them and has been very active with them. They've called many times the town attorney. They've called me. They've called other members on this council, and so I think that all of them are very capable. And we will run it with respect as we would any other
So,
commission.
To clarify what I was asking, I guess my question is on issues that our community is facing.
Yes.
Does that now, again, do we give them, a directive of looking into an issue, or do they bring that issue to us?
Well, it works both ways, Jack, because they're involved in so many so many things. They're involved with the program at SOCA. They're also involved with the police department, contacting the formal listing of folks with disabilities or that have been recorded with the police department. They're working very closely hand in hand with the PD. So they are looking at that. Some of the questions by the public concerning, and certainly Councilwoman DiPaolo and I have been to more meetings than we can catalog about buses and all of that. So we understand the frustration, but we also understand there's limited things that we can do at this juncture. So those things, when they come up, the commission is fully aware of them, but they also realize that there's very limited things that can be done. So we are open. Anybody here on the council can certainly be available for them. If we have something that we'd like them to look into, certainly I don't see a problem with them checking it out. Certainly we can ask them and ask them to check it out. And I think that they would look forward to that. They want to work in concert with us. And so, and I think it would be helpful. So, anything else? All set?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, everybody. Okay, let's move on. Old business, item A, action on the code changes in section 345-32, mandatory connect to public sewers.
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the matter?
I'm sure I think it's a great change to the regulations, as Councilman Palmieri articulated a little bit earlier. This is going to relieve financial burden from the residents who are in the situation of making a repair or a replace situation or a connect situation. It's going to give them more financial flexibility or decision making as to what they would like to do when the situation arises that they have to either repair something on their property or make a connection. So I'm supportive.
Very good. Anybody else? I'm going to just ask for a voice vote on this because it does involve a change to the code. Roll call. What did I say? Oh, voice vote. I'm sorry. I meant a roll call. Thank you, Chris.
DiPaolo? Yes. Lombardi?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Triano?
Yes. Item B, scheduling a hearing on the industrial infrastructure of improved tax abatement. We're looking at October the 12th, I believe.
October 11th.
I'm sorry.
To approve the scheduling of public hearing for industrial infrastructure improvement tax abatement for Tuesday, October 11th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mike.
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Now, I have item C. I have item C as the
Zoning
fair rent.
regulation update.
Oh, okay.
Action on the zoning regulation update.
I'm
by
sorry.
Panametric.
Thank you. Item C, action on the zoning regulation update by Planometrics.
Motion to approve the $45,000 recommendation from the economic development budget. There's a second.
Second? Do I have a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We have a roll call, please?
Discussion.
DiPaolo?
Is there any discussion on it? I'm sorry, I jumped the gun on my,
Just, Madam Chair, thanks to everybody who came out to articulate and explain, the findings and what the future looks like. It's really exciting. We're jumping in and looking forward.
yeah, that's great. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Item D, action on the report of the Board of Finance.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Val.
I'll second,
And
Madam
second
Chair.
by Tom. Thank you. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
DiPaolo? Yes. Lombardi?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Del Santo.
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. E, on the recommendation for recreation park improvements.
Motion to approve the recommendations for Recreation Park as outlined in our packet tonight.
I'll second, Madam Chair. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'm going to recognize Mike's second on that. Very good.
Sure, it's our money, so I need a roll call vote.
Yes, thank you. Are there any, is there any discussion on this?
Just for the the requested amount is $677,428.77, which also includes a 10% contingency.
Yeah. Fine. No discussion? Then, yes, would you please call the roll?
DiPaolo.
Yes?
Lombardi.
Yes.
Morelli.
Yes.
Palmieri.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes.
Del Santo.
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Item action on the recommendation for recreation park kiddie playscape.
Make a motion to approve as presented this evening.
Thank you, Chris.
Second.
Madam Chair?
I'm going to recognize that.
Go ahead, Val, can take that.
Any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
DiPaolo.
Yes?
Lombardi.
Yes.
Morelli.
Yes.
Palmieri.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes.
Del Santo.
Yes.
Triano.
Yes, thank you. Item G, action on recommendation for
Madam Chair, before this next vote, I'm going to recuse myself from this because I do work
Yeah.
seasonally.
Okay. Action on recommendation for recreation park pool rehabilitation.
I'd like to make a motion to table that, Madam Chair.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Is there any discussion?
No discussion.
Oh, no discussion on the table. Nope. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? It carries.
One abstention.
And one abstention, yep, thank you. H, Fair Rent Commission, discussion. The floor is open.
Oh, Madam Chair, then, I just want to continue the discussion that had been started. I guess I'd like to have maybe the council discuss if it makes sense to try to move this to the ordinance committee sooner rather than later.
You would like to do that this evening, is that what you're
Well,
saying?
I don't see why, I guess I don't see why we shouldn't. I would hate to see us get into such a, like, really get into the weeds of trying to come up with the different, how many members, the term, what should be in the, what should the powers and duties be, all of that, when that could be the job of the ordinance committee. If they have the toolkit, which is pretty extensive, that could be a starting point. And let the ordinance committee, read through that, look at the annotations, look at what other towns are doing, come up with what they believe could be best for Southington, and then bring that back to us, because it's going to come back to us anyways. And then at that point, I think we could have discussions as to, you had mentioned that you're looking at doing some proposals, and I think that's fine, because then we see what the ordinance committee is looking at, and I think it will narrow, the issues for us as to whether we want it to be more than what the ordinance committee is recommending or less. I just really think we have a large group of residents that came to the council in July, and this is pressing for them, and I'm not saying that we are going to be able to, get it done as quickly maybe as they want it done, but they did come to us in July, and I know we've been moving over the last month or so, which is great, but it's going to take a while. So I really think as a council, if we could just get this to the ordinance committee, let them start. We will get that legal opinion 7 to 10 days, and that will allow the ordinance committee members to know if they're able to have a discussion, and then take it from there. And then we'll know how many members of the council can have a discussion after the fact, and hopefully there's a quorum, to be able to do that. So,
Thank you, Val. Anybody else? Chris?
I agree with Val. This was an issue, we've talked about tonight, how many residents come out for different meetings, to see how many residents have come out multiple meetings. But it's a big segment of our community that actually came out and asked us to do this. So at least this is action on our behalf if we're able to do this tonight to push it forward. I think once the town attorney gets the recommendation from legal counsel as far as conflicts, we could pass that along to the ordinance committee and not delay the process more. Town council to take action. So I'd agree if we.
Just if I could interject briefly, your rules require that the ordinance gets sent down with a member of the town council putting their name on it.
Val already did.
So if
Well,
It's
right.
in your
Oh, it's in the email. I mean, I have that ready if the council is willing to do that. That sample ordinance that I put,
so are you proposing that's going to be your proposed
It-
ordinance for
it could be
discussion?
for the ordinance
Okay,
committee.
I just want to make
And
sure
I-
we're procedurally on the right track.
Right, as long as you believe that's okay, coming
We got
from the
that at 4
council.
o'clock, we got that at 4 o'clock this afternoon.
No,
I glanced over it.
I just wanted to point out that ordinance that's basic.
Yeah, I saw at
It's
the
from the
end.
toolkit, so we've had that toolkit for 2 weeks.
Yep.
So it's nothing, I just inserted Town of Southington in
Yeah.
different spots. It is basically the toolkit, and that's the only reason I sent it today, was because I thought possibly we could move this tonight.
And just to clarify, I didn't see that email before. Was that?
I think I
simply the
copied you,
Was
but
it the toolkit though?
well, it's,
Simply the toolkit?
no, it's, I
Pulled it out.
I pulled it out of the toolkit. I call, Town of Southington Fair Rent Commission. But I did give, basically said who, the authors of it.
Okay.
But you need for our policies and procedures, you need a council person
Sponsor
to
it.
introduce it and.
You'll
So-
do the
Right,
sponsor.
so the only reason I sent that today was because we've had it and, it just could help move it tonight.
Right. Well,
That's it.
coincidentally, we have ours as well. But we just discussed it between ourselves because I didn't know this had to go to the ordinance committee. I
Right.
mean, I don't know if that's still on the table. I don't know if all of us are in obedience and agreement that it should go to the ordinance committee.
I would think it has to go to the
I
ordinance.
mean, there's 9 of us and there's 11 of them. Now we have 20 people looking at this. I mean, I don't know if
You could submit dual
we could.
if you want, because everybody can sponsor it. There's no, I mean, you can, one person could submit one, another person can submit another one, for review.
As long as legally, Alex, you believe that that's sending over
I-
policy.
So I haven't reviewed it, as long as there's nothing substantive in it,
Mhm.
I have no issues. But if there's any recommendations,
Right, there's no recommendations, there's,
I'd like to just to,
well, can I just finish? Let me
If I
just
get-
finish,
but just
because
before you
everybody
do, I
keeps,
just
no,
wanna talk
no,
about the
hang on,
procedure, Val.
because everybody just says, I just sent it and we haven't read it. We've had it for weeks.
You're offering, though.
but it
Well,
has to
my
be with your name
offering
on it.
is the
Can I just,
sample.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, can I just
yeah, okay,
interject?
okay,
Because
yeah.
there's a policy that I'd like to read, just because I think it's going to add some clarification, though. It says in our rules, ordinances and resolutions, number 16, preparation and introduction, the town attorney shall, on request of the town manager or council, prepare any ordinance or resolution. All ordinances and resolutions shall be introduced in the, it says that all ordinances and resolutions shall be introduced in the council in a printed or written form with the name of the council member introducing same endorsed therein. So, it's so that the town attorney shall, on request of the town manager or the council, so the town attorney prepares it and introduces it in writing to the council.
Yep,
I'll read
or-
it again. The town attorney shall, meaning they must, on request of the town manager or the council, prepare any ordinance or resolution. All ordinances and resolutions shall be introduced in the council in printed or written form with the name of the council member introducing such endorsed thereon.
And then continue reading.
Yep, in the absence of the council, to introduce an ordinance on a resolution upon the request of the town manager The town clerk shall cause the ordinance to be introduced with the designation request. Any member of the council may instruct the town clerk to endorse said designation by request on any ordinance or resolution which is being introduced in the council in his or her name.
So my reading of that is that a council member could ask the town clerk, it could be submitted to the town clerk and say by request, the council member would like this to be put down as, to go to the ordinance committee. So I think just to keep in mind, think back on the flag ordinance. That was placed on our agenda in one night for discussion and for action. And we went back to these rules with the flag ordinance. We brought up these rules and we said, oh, wait, we really need to follow a procedure here. We did that. So if we're going to do this the proper way, I believe, is we do get this to the ordinance committee. It's important. It's very important. And yes, it may be more people that are going to be looking at it, or there may be less people because we might have a legal opinion that says there's going to be conflicts, and some people will not be able to discuss it. So, I'm just offering this tonight as a way to move it.
And Madam Chair, can I say something?
Yes, John?
So it doesn't sound like you guys could, based on our rules and procedures, you guys could send an ordinance to the ordinance committee as well. So what Councilwoman DePaul is trying to do is again give the toolkit or the template to the ordinance committee to have them start working on it. And I know I've mentioned at other meetings that this is something, I understand we have time, but we should start working on it now and making sure that we're doing what's best for our residents and obviously listening and starting to mobilize and work out the kinks, I think is very important. So I just don't see what the harm is of, sending her sponsored ordinance or the toolkit that we were all provided and we've all seen for weeks now to the ordinance committee. I just don't want to see politics being played on the council for what's best with our residents. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I ask the council person, who is you guys, Jack? You guys can do what? Who is you guys that you're talking about?
The Republicans, okay, you guys stated that you guys have own ordinance that we don't know about.
No, we didn't state that. Nobody stated that,
what I
Jack.
No, he said he has a proposal, right? You have a proposal.
we've been discussing it as well in our caucus.
Yeah.
We're not ready forward with it tonight.
Actually, quite frankly, the town attorney told us at the last meeting that we should hold on any substantial presentations of content, opinions, recommendations until we heard the legal opinion. That's the only reason why I have been uncomfortable bringing something to the floor, because I think it's inappropriate that the town attorney told us last meeting that he was getting an opinion and that we should hold off on substantial discussions until we get those. Now we're talking about a document that came to us at 4:00, maybe later today, that you're asking us, it's an 8-page document that you want us to review and send to a subcommittee, but not send to the subcommittee with any recommendation. In other words, blindly send to them and say, we haven't reviewed this, but we want you to do something with it.
I'm not saying that, because in speaking with the town attorney, the question to the town attorney was, can this be sent by the council to the ordinance committee without jeopardizing that legal opinion? At the it was because of potential conflicts, right? And it's not a document that has been, it's a new document. So just because you received it at 4:00, it's, as Councilperson Perry said, we've had this. I'm telling you that I'm not making recommendations. It's not an 8-page document. I believe it's 6 pages, and the 7th page is just my name on it as introducing it, and it's from the toolkit.
I would just offer, Madam Chair, I am totally comfortable. I think we've all seen the toolkit that Councilperson DiPaolo is talking about. I mean, I've gone through it dozens of times. I have my own opinions on it. And I've looked at numerous towns and benchmarked numerous towns myself. I've been holding off until we get an opinion because I am concerned. I may have a conflict myself. Okay, I'll raise my hand. I have a family member who lives in a Sun community. So I don't know if I have a conflict. So I'm waiting for that so that I don't jeopardize the future of this thing. But what I will say is I'm comfortable. You bring up the flag resolution. We bring up the other other items that went to the ordinance committee or went to subcommittees that has been requested by this council. They've been agreed upon by ordinance committees, and they come back here, even with recommendations from both parties at the subcommittee, but they get here and we have a division amongst the council on it. I personally don't think the ordinance committee is going to add a lot of value to this. There's a toolkit that's pretty substantial already that we can work together on. I would propose that once we hear back from the town attorney, we'd get this done. Put it on the agenda next meeting. We can bypass the ordinance committee. We can be faster than the ordinance committee. So I would offer that the ordinance committee is going to add time, not delay time. And we don't even know who on the ordinance committee is going to have a conflict. So personally, I would rather wait till next meeting. Let's keep it as a standing agenda item. Let's have some healthy debate at the next meeting. Let's see if we can make progress ourselves, because you know what's going to happen? I'll predict what's going to happen. We're going to send this to the ordinance committee. They're going to go around 2 or 3 meetings. That's going to take 2 or 3 months, at least a month or 2. Then we're going to schedule it here. We're going to debate it. We have to schedule a public hearing. We're going to debate it. That's going to take a couple months. We're going to ask for changes back and forth. Let's skip and just get to the step. Let's get to the town council step. Let's debate this on the floor and let's pass something that makes sense. That's what I say we do.
Then why do we
Let's cut the time out and help these people sooner than to let it go round and round in subcommittee and then come up here and debate the same debate that we're going to have. That's all.
Why has this been delayed for months now?
It's not delayed. I would like you to know, Jack, that the legislation is effective October 1st.
Not even until next week.
October 1st.
Friday.
Well, we're not talking, but they're.
I understand when it came out. I understand when it came out, but it is effective October 1st, which is not even here yet. And and my comments are meant to help these people get there quicker. That's why I'm trying to offer that we can skip the ordinance subcommittee. If this was a new document that we hadn't prepared yet and we needed them to do some investigation, I would say, okay, maybe we let them do some legwork. The legwork's done. Now we can debate the merits of the legwork, and we're ready to do that. I think we, as a town council, can do that together and get this done a lot faster for those people who need the help. That's what I would suggest.
Well, again, I want to emphasize that getting it done fast and right is the most appropriate way. Just rushing something and stamping it may not be the right way. So it's like the saying, Rome wasn't built overnight. Same thing with this. I want the process to be done properly, and we have something here tonight that could be sent to them, and the process could start. You know, again, delaying it is delaying it. So again, I feel that this is delaying it, and I think everything should go through the process like the flag ordinance.
And that same document can be provided at the next meeting, Jack? And that document just came out at 4 o'clock today.
That's.
Okay. So I think.
Madam Chair, this evening,
Mr. You want to add?
No, the only.
This evening, Councilman Chaplinsky has been interrupting everyone as we were been speaking.
Excuse me, Jack, I have the floor right now. I would like very much for us just to speak our piece, and then let's move on and not have this debate, because it's just going to carry on longer and longer. Everybody's saying the same thing over and over. So Val, I would like to know, is there anything else you would like to say in closing in your remarks?
The only thing I will mention is if the legal opinion comes back that a number of people on this council can't have a discussion, that could cause a problem. So I understand what Councilor Chaplinsky is saying, and I agree with that. If we could streamline this, that would be fine. But we have these policies and procedures for a reason, and we have an ordinance committee for a reason. So, I'm not sure where I kind of see both sides of that. That legal opinion is going to be very important, because if there's, well, I don't know how many members there will be on this committee, but we may not have a quorum.
Okay.
So that could start. So then at that point, we'll have to wait for a legal opinion. Now Alex gives us the legal opinion. Now we can't do it. We may not be able to have a good discussion here at the council level. So now we might be forced to send it to the ordinance committee if the ordinance committee has enough people. So that's the only concern. I'm just saying, I think Paul and I are kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah, thank you. Jack, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, thanks, Madam Chair.
Chris, is there anything?
Just one other point. I think we're saying the same thing. Mike, you mentioned that you have a proposal. We're talking about our. There is no proposal from our side.
They're very close.
All Val did is take the toolkit and personalize it and put the town of Southington information, which is exactly what you would do. It's literally a clerical revision to the document. So we have had this document. So I just want to be clear. I don't think there's an our side proposal
Right, no.
and a your side proposal. It's the proposal from the state of Connecticut.
Can I offer a suggestion, Madam Chair? Here's a,
Excuse me, I do want to go down the line,
Yeah,
Paul,
Madam
because I
Chair.
think it's important. Are you all set, Chris?
Yes.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm confused because I thought our charge was to establish a fair rent commission. I didn't hear where we had to just take some information from the state, dump it down to the ordinance committee. I thought we were going to talk about a committee, establishing a committee to investigate this whole, so we would have a committee, a fair rent committee. I think we're already farther down the road than we should be. Weren't we trying to discuss how we could set that committee up, how many members, what the mix would be like, renters or not renters? Again, I don't know why, I don't understand why it has to go to the ordinance committee. That's my, I don't understand why we feel like we have to force this to the ordinance committee. I thought we're under a charge to establish our own committee.
Thank you, Jim. Go ahead, Paul.
yeah, I've just one suggestion, maybe Val and Chris, maybe to help out with this. How about we do this? Why don't we ask, who's the chairperson of the ordinance committee?
Bill.
Why don't we, as a result of this meeting, let's ask Bill to set aside a date for the ordinance committee to meet the week of our next town council meeting so that we're not starting and going another 2 weeks till they start. In the event that, so in other words, if our next meeting is the 11th, which it sounds like it is, maybe that's a Tuesday, then we ask Bill today or tomorrow, we ask the town clerk or town manager, whoever's going to communicate to Bill, to reach out to the ordinance committee and have a tentative hold on an ordinance committee potential date, the 12th, 13th, 14th, that week, as a placeholder. Should we decide at the next meeting that we need to have the subcommittee work and start work, they have the date already set, they can always cancel the meeting if we decide we're going to pass it quicker. In this way here, we're reserving the date. They're not going to have to wait 2 weeks after that. The next meeting, they'll be ready to hit the ground running. It's probably only a 2 or 3 or 4 day delay over what you're maybe proposing today, Val.
Okay.
And then if we get something next meeting and we all feel as though we can't kind of figure it out here, or if we have conflicts here, but they don't there, and we need them to begin working on it, then we can vote. Well, I'm assuming we could vote somehow to get it to them, assuming that we could figure out the quorum issue. Is that
Alex,
okay?
Right, yes.
Let's
And
do that.
you would be able to let us know as soon as you get the legal opinion anyways. It might be before the next meeting.
Okay, I want
It
to
should be before the next meeting.
Yeah. Tom, did you want to add?
I'll refrain from commenting until the town attorney reports back to us on the outside counsel's decision.
Thank you. Mike?
I think I've said enough.
I think that is very wise. I think that we should get the report first from the council. I think it's a very good decision for us to move forward because we are all getting up to date. If we can move this amongst ourselves would be my preference, but I will certainly acquiesce to the wishes of the council and go with it from there. So we've had a robust discussion on this. If there is, and Alex, I'm going to ask if there's a motion that someone wants to make tonight on this, or can I do that?
There's no action
Okay.
on the agenda, so
So-
it can be added to the agenda.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's anyone who wants to add it to the agenda or not. But I do want to, make it open, or we just wait till once we find out, we hopefully will have all of that in place for our next meeting.
I just want to make a suggestion. Why don't we do what Paul suggested and
Make the
at least reach out to Bill to set up a meeting for that week, Thursday.
That there would be a potential that the fair rent placeholder, as a placeholder. I certainly agree. I think that would be good. Are you all in favor of that? Jim, are you okay? Paul is,
sure.
I know.
Yes.
Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Very good.
We need a motion for that?
So,
No,
no, it's a
I'll
consensus.
I'll contact the chair tomorrow and have him schedule something for obviously after Tuesday.
Yeah, and it's a placeholder. We're not sure yet what we're
Well,
going to
he
do.
can't, he has no action unless you send it to him.
Yes,
So, yeah, the meeting will be,
exactly.
but unless you send it to him, it'll be a very quick meeting.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate everyone's comment, and we are very close, and I'm glad to see that, so that's good. Let's move on then to new business, please. Tax refunds.
I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that were presented in our packet.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Goes unanimously. Appointments. The Board of Assessment Appeals, one member, a 4-year term expiring October of 2024.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jessica Rydell, a Republican, for the Board of Assessment Appeals. And I'll reserve a little, well, I can say it now. She's currently a member of the Commission for Persons with Disabilities. Prior to her current role, she was a banker at TD Bank, and she's a lifetime, grew up in Southington, and she's currently been a licensed real estate agent, a highly regarded real estate agent in town for the last 2 or 3 years. So Jessica Rydell of 112 Woodruff Street would be my nomination.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Item number 2, Commission for Persons with Disability, one member, 2-year term, expiring April of 2023.
Madam
Motion
Chair, I'll
tables.
make a motion to table.
Second.
There's a motion to table on the floor and a second. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
any opposed?
Aye.
Need a roll call?
Okay, then let's have a roll call. Sure.
No.
Lombardi,
Yes to table.
Morelli,
Yes, the table.
Palmieri,
No to table.
Harry,
No to table.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes to table. Thank you, everybody. I would like a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You could stay. The meeting is done. Thank you, everybody, for all your work tonight. It was good.